What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. Now in this video we're going to look at wiring light fittings. So desk lamps, standing lamps, wall lights or hanging lights. If you want to make a light fitting and you're unsure of the electrics, we will take you through it. So it's going to be aimed at woodworkers, woodturners and makers out there who want to make their own light fittings. Now if you're new here, welcome along. My name is John McGrath. This is my YouTube channel. I am a professional electrician and a hobbyist woodworker, and this is all about sharing my woodworking projects, wood turning projects, some electrical advice and love of tools, that kind of thing. So in a recent video I built this shadow box light. I'll leave the link up here if you want to go check that out, and people expressed interest in me going in more in depth into the electric side of things, just to clear up some stuff, to demystify it, to take the, I suppose people are afraid of it, so we'll try and clear up all that and enable you to build your own light fittings. Now, disclaimer here, electricity is dangerous. It can kill and it can destroy property, so be very, very careful. But by the end of this video, you will be well able to wear your own lamp. But if you're still unsure, get a professional electrician or a professional to look at the lamp, to wire the switch and to wire the other end of it. Do not attempt to put a wall light up yourself or hang your own ceiling light. This is just for persons who want to make their own light fitting. You will be able to plug in your own lamp, that's not a problem, but when you're wiring into the mains of your own house, get a professional to do that end of it, okay? This is just to build the fitting itself. So without further ado, let's crack on and let's look at wiring a lamp. Right, let's kick off then. So in this video, we'll break it down by lamp holders, bulbs, switching options, cabling, connections, and then some design considerations for when you want to make your light fitting. So let's start off. We get a close-up of some lamp holders. We will wire a couple of them and we'll show the difference between bayonet cap and Edison screw. There's an important difference there in the wiring, and we'll also discuss metal fittings as opposed to plastic fittings. There's also a very important difference there in the wiring. Then we'll just look at the bulbs to go with them. So let's do that. Okay, I have a number of lamp fittings or lamp holders on the table here, and we'll just take you through some of the options. So two different main types that we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at bayonet cap and Edison screw. So you're all familiar probably with the bayonet cap style bulbs with the 2 pins, and the Edison screw type with a single pin and the metal threads. Now there's an important difference between these two bulbs. It doesn't matter what way the live and neutral goes into a bayonet cap. If it goes onto either one of these pins, either way around, it doesn't matter, the light will still work and everything is safe. However, with the Edison screw, the live must always go onto the center and never onto the side. So your live touches the pin at the bottom and your neutral goes onto your screws. That's how it worked. So essentially, instead of having 2 pins, you have a pin and a screw on the Edison screw. So when we are wiring our bayonet style, you will see we have 2 pins. Hopefully the camera's picking this up. We have 2 pins inside in here with 2 terminals, and it doesn't matter what way the live and neutral go around. That doesn't make any difference. The bulb will work and it remains safe. But in our Edison screw, and hopefully you guys can see this, we have a center pin. So that's for our live, and then we have another pin which touches the threads, and that's our neutral, and they will be marked live and neutral. We'll go through that when we're wiring it inside. So that's a very important difference. If you were to mix those up, the light bulb would still work, but you have a potential of making these threads live and you coming in contact with live exposed metal parts. So that's the first consideration I just want to really drum into you. If you're using Edison screw type, always, always, always make sure that that live goes to the center pin and not onto the threads or onto the thread pin, which is just in here. Again, we'll go through that when we're wiring it. Another consideration we want to make is the fact that we're using metal fittings as opposed to plastic fittings. Now you can get plastic variants of all these, that's not an issue. But if it is a metal fitting, they will all have earth lugs on them or ground lugs, depending on what you want to call them, earth ground or bonding lugs. We must make sure that all our metal components on our light fittings are grounded or earthed or bonded, whatever terminology you wish to use. We have to get an earth cable to it. So if you are using metal fittings, you have to use a 3-core flex, which will contain a live, a neutral and an earth. And you can see the flex that's on this plastic fitting because there is no extraneous metal parts, as they call it, and that just means any metal parts that you can come in contact. This is fully insulated fitting. It's made of plastic, so you see there's no earth in that. It's just a live and a neutral. Now, another consideration is how we enter the flex into the light. So most of these are lamp type fittings, so they'll either be screw on, you get a screw on base, you get threaded nipples like this, or you will get a threaded rod that will go the whole way through your lamp. You run your flex up into it and you mount your light like that, that's fine. If you intend to make pendant type lights, so hanging lights, you must hang your light from the flex. So you can see this plastic one, how the cores go underneath the hooks here, and you can see if I pull that, I am not pulling on the connections, I am pulling on the flex. Likewise with this metal brass fitting, if you tend to hang a bunch of these, so for pendant type lights, we have a crush gland. So the outer core, or the outer sheet of our flex, which I'll just show you here, so that must be inside in the crush gland. Show you how that works. So you shove that in, and you tighten that down. So that now clamps the outside of the flex, and that hangs off the flex. It's not hanging off our connections, okay? So that's another important thing to think about, how we enter the flex into the light. So just quickly recap that again. We have bayonet cap and we have Edison screw. Live and neutral, doesn't matter what way they go around on the bayonet cap. It is essentially important on the Edison screw that the live always goes to the center pin and the neutral always goes to the thread, because we never ever want to put the live onto our screws and come in contact with that. Our flex entry then, so depending on whether we're making lamps, wall lights or hanging lights, we must consider that we're always hanging from the flex, never from the connections, and that the outer sheet always goes in. So the outer sheet of our flex is our mechanical protection. That's always up, and we never see any cores out here. So there we go. That's a quick rundown just on lamps and lamp fittings. Again, plastic doesn't require an earth. Metal has to be earthed or bonded or grounded, whatever terminology you wish to use. So let's look at wiring some of these. Okay, hopefully you can see what I'm at here. So we're going to start with the Edison screw. So we'll just remove this part because that's just for holding on our shade or whatever we decide to put on our light. So again, this is a metal fitting, so it will require an earth, and we will wire this as if we're going to use it as a hanging pendant. Now it has a threaded base, so we could fit the threaded base to it and use this for our lamp top, but we will assume that we're going to use this as a hanging pendant light, so it's going to need a crush gland. So you can buy these separately and they'll just thread straight into the back of this. Just like that, and there is your crush part. So as I tighten that down, that will tighten and clamp onto the flex. So that's what we need. This is going to be a pendant light. So let's open this up. We take out our center section and we shove through our flex. So again, we always want to make sure that the outer core of the flex is caught. Okay, we'll leave that like that for now. Now we're going to strip the end of our flex. Now I've already done a how to wire a plug video, so that's an important part of the lamp. I will link that up here now. I'll show how to strip a flex properly, how to connect cables properly, and all that stuff. It's in that video. I'll link it up here and I'll also link that below, so go check that out. But just to quickly recap again, so to strip a flex, all we want to do is score it with our knife all the way around and then snap. That ensures that we do not cut into the cores. So once we pull our outer sheet off, you want to check around the cores and make sure you haven't scored that with your knife, that none of the inner cores are damaged, and they are not. So again, just score it with your knife and snap it. That way you're not cutting all the way through the outer sheet into your inner cores, okay? Now, let's look at our Edison screw fitting. So this is the back of our fitting. You see we have 3 pins. So we have one for the earth, one for the live, and one for the neutral. Now these ones aren't actually marked, so I'll take you through them. Okay, so here is the inside of our Edison screw fitting, and like I said, we have 3 terminals. This is typical of what you'll see, and these ones aren't actually marked, but most of them will have a live, neutral, and an earth symbol. So how we determine what's what? Okay, so if we flip it over and we look, there's our center pin. So that goes to this side, so that's our live. If we flip it back over, that's the one that touches off our thread of our bulb. So that's our neutral, and you can see this guy here, which goes up and out, and touches the outside of our fitting is the earth, and that's actually marked with the little earth symbol there. I don't know if that, there you go, you can just see that on the camera, so that's our earth. So if I flip it back over, we have live, neutral, and earth, and that's how we're going to connect that up. Okay, let's get our cables so we can shorten these cords. We don't need them to be that long, so I'm going to shorten them right down. I'm just going to strip them. Then we're going to do a twist connection. So we want to get that nice and twisted up. Now, if you're going to be doing a lot of lamp fittings, I suggest you get yourself a crimping tool and ferrules and ferrule all your flexes. They're supposed to have a little ferrule on the end of these, and you crimp them or solder the ends. So if you're going to be doing a lot of this kind of stuff, I suggest you get yourself a crimping kit. But for a one-off lamp, this will be absolutely fine. So we want to get good twisted up connections. Again, I go into this in depth in the plug wiring video, so check that out. Okay, so there's what the ends of our flex should look like now. So everything is nice and twisted up. Now you've seen me strip this with the pliers. I'm well used to doing this. You can get yourself a little wire strippers. The most important thing to do is never nick the inner core. So we don't want to see any pinch marks in around our inner cores, in around our copper. So I'm well used to doing it with the pliers. You might want to use our wire strippers. But just make sure that we twist them right up and we have nice twisted connections like that. So we've no strands sticking out. We're not going to have any flex strands sticking out of our connections. Everything is going to go into the connection and fill up that connection. Okay, so this is what it should look like now that we have it connected up. So I have the copper gone in and it's pinched under the screws. You can see the insulation is all the way to the terminal, so there's no copper sticking out. We have no copper strands loose or poking out. Everything is inside in the terminal and our insulation is to the terminal, so there's no exposed copper. Now, I just forgot to mention the color coding. So our brown is our live wire, our blue is a neutral, and the green and yellow is our earth cable. Now, depending on where you are in the world, that will be different, but nearly all light fittings, bayonet cap, Edison screw and stuff, it's nearly exactly the same the world over. So make sure that you, wherever country you are in, you understand the color coding and you get your live, your neutral and your earth correct. Now if I flip this over, you'll see the live is going to this terminal again, which is my center pin. My neutral is going to my screw pin, which touches off the screw of my bulb, and my earth is going out to this pin, which touches off the metal outside part of my light fitting. So I cannot stress this again enough. I know I'm banging on about this, but make sure on an Edison screw bulb that the live goes to the center and not the screw terminal. All right, nice and simple. So just to check your connections, you can just pull on them a small bit, make sure nothing is loose, make sure that's all in there good and tight, and once you have something looking like that, you're good to go. Okay, now that everything is connected back up, we can reassemble our lamp holder. So it's just a case of pull the flex back down, and you can see why I kept the cores nice and short, so there's no possibility that I will have cores sticking out here or clamping any cores. It will be the outer sheet of the flex that will be getting clamped. Just pull that back down. Now there's usually little location notches and little pins. If you just line them up, it should sit back down in there for you nicely, just like that. Then we can put on the outer cap. That should just screw on. The screw on this isn't great, but there we go, just like that. And then we can close up our crush gland. So that sits down. So you can see how the mechanism works now. You have these guys here. Once I put this down on top of it and start screwing, that will start forcing them in onto the flex. So we'll snug that up good and tight, just like that. Now I can pull on that as hard as I want. It's the outer sheet that's clamped. There's no possibility of me pulling those inner cores, so it's not hanging from our terminals, it's hanging from our flex. So we can make up a bunch of these now. If you wanted to make up a pendant with 5, 6, 7, 8 of these, a nice log or a nice beam with all these hanging off it, that's not a problem. That's exactly how you do it. And it's exactly the same for wiring a lamp for an Edison screw. So I'll make off a bayonet cap type now, and I'll just show you that. I won't go through it, I'll just show you the difference. And yeah, so there's a pendant done, an Edison screw or an Edison screw lamp. Again, flex is clamped, terminations are good, everything in electrical industry, everything as being an electrician, you will quickly discover that it is the connection that is everything. So make sure you have a good solid connection with no copper showing, no copper strands sticking out, that the outer sheet of that flex is caught, and you will be good to go. I can pull on that now and it's not touching my terminals inside. So there you go. Okay, so here is the inside of our brass bayonet cap bulb. So you can see there's the two pins that touch off the bulb, and there's our two terminals. Now, like I say, it doesn't matter what way around you put the live and neutral. As long as you have the live in one pin and the neutral on the other pin, it doesn't matter. Now, the outer thing, or the metal part, must be earthed, like I was saying. So there's the earth terminal. It's actually on the outside, so don't try and take the earth out this way and in. Take it in through here and then shove it out through the terminal and clamp it there so that the earth will not be seen. Keep your inner cores nice and short. So when I go to reassemble this night, You can see I have no cores sticking out here. It is the outer sheet of the flex. So that's very, very important. Okay, so then we can just reassemble this guy. Okay, it is back assembled there now, and there's the outer ring. Okay, so here's something I want you to consider, and this is in your design choice and how you're going to assemble. This is what you're going to think about when you're building your lamp and designing how it's going to go together. So you're going to mount, let's say we want to mount this using a screw base or this threaded nipple or a threaded bar, the same as this with a hole the whole way through it. So that will be in your lamp now sticking out, or we're going to use this guy. This guy will be screwed to our lamp sticking out. So once we assemble our lamp holder just like this, we have our flex into it, we're happy, everything's ready to go. We're then going to thread that through there and put this on. Now this is what I want you to think about. If this threaded part is fixed to your light, you're going to have to turn your lamp holder to thread that on. You can see that flex there is spinning, that's absolutely fine. But if this flex is caught inside in your light and you go to keep threading this on, what you're doing is twisting up the cores inside in the flex, okay? So this is something I want you to think about now when you're designing your light. This is not good. So I can twist my cores inside in here, I can tear the insulation, I can pull a connection out, I can have the live pop out now and touch off the edge of this. You get a nice flash and a bang when you go to turn on your light and scare the living daylights out of yourself. So when you're designing your light, think about how you're going to twist back on your lamp holder and allow that flex to twist around with it so that nothing is getting twisted up inside in here or inside in here or at any other part in the light. So just a little design thing to think about. When you're twisting on this, don't twist your flex up into a ball. It will not be good, okay? So there you go. Okay, let's do a quick recap then. So we've talked about bulb or lamp holders. We've talked about the different types of lamp. We've talked about the difference between bayonet cap and Edison screw. We've talked about the importance of making sure that we always put the live onto the center pin of that Edison screw and never onto its threads. We've talked about metal fittings as opposed to plastic fittings. All metal parts must be earthed. So ensure that you use a 3-core flex so it has a live, a neutral and an earth so we can earth the outside of that. Again, we made sure for our pendant lights that the light hangs from the outer sheet like this and never the inner connections. So that's a crush gland that catches the outer sheet of this flex, and that is good and solid. Same with this metal one. That's another crush gland there that's catching that. So again, it never hangs off our terminals. If we're going to use a plastic style one like this, which has the hooks, make sure that our cores are hooked under those hooks. Again, when I pull this, I am not pulling on my terminals or my electrical connections, so there's no chance of them ever working loose, popping out, risking electric shock or damage to property or anything like that, or the light not working. And that's the best case scenario. So yeah, there we go. Next, we'll take a quick look at some bulbs and the difference between using LEDs and standard tungsten filament bulbs. We'll talk about switching options, dimming options, and all that good stuff. Let's do it. Okay, let's do a quick discussion on bulbs now. There's a myriad of bulbs available on the market. You select the bulb that's right for you, for the design option you want to go for the look you're trying to achieve. So how bright you want it, how dim you want it. There is an LED variant of almost every single bulb now, and there's this classic range which is out, which is great. They look like the old Edison bulbs, and they give a nice warm glow. So if that's something you're after, they are available in LED. Again, bayonet, Edison screw. You will have large Edison screw, which is E27. You will have small Edison screw, which is our E14. Just select the correct lamp holder for the lamp you want to use. We're dealing with all mains bulbs here, so in Ireland that's 240 volt, in America that's 110 volt. I'm not talking about transformers or any of that kind of stuff. It's just straight on mains connected stuff we are dealing with in this video. So yeah, another consideration is if you want to dim it, make sure that LED bulb is dimmable. So on the box it will say dimmable or non-dimmable, and you will have to get an LED specific dimmer to dim that bulb. A standard dimmer switch won't dim an LED, so that's something to bear in mind. Again, get your electrician to fit the dimmer switch on the wall. Don't do that yourself if you're not qualified and if you're not a trained professional. That anything leave to your electrician. So yeah, that's bulbs. Again, like I say, there's so many different design types. That's up to you for what the look you're trying to achieve. Again, there's an LED variant now for every single bulb on the market. So again, and these classic style ones are out, which look great in these kind of fittings. So let's move on. There's not much more to say about that. Okay, next up, switching options. So we'll discuss switching options. Now, if it's a ceiling light or a pendant type light that you're planning on making, or a wall mounted light, that's going to be connected to the mains of your house. So it's going to be the main lighting circuit. That would be switched from the light switch itself. So again, you probably won't mount a switch on the light fitting. You will just leave a cable stick out at a convenient place where it won't be seen, that it can be attached to the wall or attached to a ceiling rose or pendant in the ceiling. Again, get your electrician to attach it to your lighting circuit of your house. Don't do that yourself if you're not fully qualified. I recommend that you get the electrician to do that, but you can completely build a light and then just leave your flex hang out if it's a wall light or if it's a ceiling light. Now, if we're dealing with lamps like desk lamps or floor lamps, we have a bunch of different options. So this is an antique brass switch that I fit to this one. Again, I rescued this from my house, polished it up and fitted to this lamp. That's one option you can go with. Again, you can check that video. I've probably linked it already, or it will be linked in the description. You can see how I done that. You have other options then. So the lamp holder itself, I have one here, will have a switching mechanism in it. So if I could do away with this switch and just mount this one up in here, bring my cable straight into this. Again, it works exactly the same as a standard bayonet cap type, and it breaks the live and the neutral, and it's a local switch which is right there. So that's one option. That's two options. And a third option then is an inline switch or a true switch, which goes onto the flex itself. And I'll show you how to wire one of these now. So you'll see them on most lamps like this. You will have the switch built into the flex, and it's just a case of on off. You can get these as foot switches that you can stand on them. So again, all this stuff is available online. So if it's a floor standing lamp, you can have a nice big chunky foot switch that you just hit with your foot. Again, it's the exact same thing. You wire it the exact same way. I'll show you that now in a second. You can have true dimmers or inline dimmers as well that you can put onto the flex, and it's a local kind of dimmer switch. That's another option. Again, that's all available online. They're all wired the very same way. Just make sure that it can dim your LED bulb and that your LED bulb is dimmable. So yeah, there's our switching options. So let's have a look at how to wire an inline switch. So if we want to make a table lamp and we don't want to put a light switch on the light itself, we can use one of these. Let's have a look. Okay, looking at our inline switch or our true switch then, so this will be on our flex. So you can imagine that this is coming from our plug and this is heading on up to our lamp. So it's just a true switch, so very basic. So two screws in the back. Now every manufacturer will be slightly different, but this is just this particular one. So we'll take off the cover and we have 3 terminals inside. So again, we take our flex in and there's 2 clamps either side. So we have to make sure again that we clamp the outer sheet of that flex and not the core. So I don't want to see any cores sticking out of this thing back here. If the outer sheet is back here somewhere and you can see the live, neutral and earth, that's bad practice. Do not do that. Make sure that it's the outer sheet that is responsible for the mechanical protection of those inner cores that's clamped under this clamp. Okay, then we look inside. We have 3 terminals and they are actually marked with a live, neutral and earth inside this. Now they're very tiny so the camera won't see them, but it's down behind the cables there. So brown into live, earth into our center terminal, which is our earth terminal, and neutral into our neutral terminal. Now check that your particular switch is marked the exact same way. Then on the outgoing side, then we have our live, earth, and neutral as well. Make sure that your live corresponds to your live, your earth to your earth, and your neutral to your neutral. It's an easy mistake to make. These are fiddly little things, so it's hard to get the connections right. So take your time at it. It can take 20 minutes, half an hour to wire up one of these. They're so fiddly. So, and the first time you do it, it could take you an hour. But make sure you get this right. Make sure that you clamp those outer cores, because remember, this is a flex that will be hanging off the back of your lamp. It could get caught on a table. It could get caught in someone's leg. It could get caught anywhere. And that can get pulled. So you do not want live terminals being pulled on and potentially getting pulled out of the switch and then having exposed live cables. So make sure that you clamp the outer sheet and everything is good and clamped. And again, that our connections are good and solid. It's live to live, earth to earth, and neutral to neutral. And there's not much more to it than that. And then it's just a case of put your cover back on and you have an on-off switch. Nice and simple. So that's a true switch or inline switch. Okay, hopefully you are all still with me and that this is interesting and you're actually learning something from this. So we've covered lamps, lamp holders, we've covered how to wire them, we've covered switching options. Now let's just talk about some design features, so the creative end of things and things that you have to consider when you're making lamps, lamp holders, wall fittings, pendants, that kind of thing. So let's start with pendants. So if it's a single fitting with just one thing on, it's not too hard. Again, you can just routing your cables is something you're going to have to consider. So that's true of a lamp fitting like this, where I took and hid the cable. You can't actually see the cable in this, it's hidden in the frame. So again, make sure with a flex that it's not kinked, it's not pinched. You don't want any sharp joints where it's stressing the insulation on the cable. So everything should be nice flowing bends. It's not catching anywhere in the fitting. So if you want to hide the flex, if you don't want to see any flex whatsoever, if you want to keep everything like a clean look like this, just make sure when you're routing the cable and routing it through the fitting that it's not kinked, catched, pinched anywhere. That insulation could become damaged. Make sure that you know exactly where it is. So if you're putting screws or any extra attachments onto the fitting, you're not going to screw into that flex, you're not going to saw into that flex, anything like that. It's just something to think about. So as you're designing your light, think about your cable routing. And like I say, with a pendant, you could have a single one hanging like this, or you could have multiple ones. So if you have more than one, you could have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these hanging. So you have an individual cable back from every one of your lamp holders. They are all going to have to go back to a central point, to a junction box where they'll all meet, and then you'll have a single cable from that going back to your mains of your house. So think about how you're going to route them, all those cables. Think about where you're going to bring them on the light fitting, and think about where you're going to put that central junction location. It'll probably be something that you'll want to hide. Or if you're going to see it, make a feature of it. So anything that you want to see, make it a feature. So there's millions of different types of flexes on the market, all different colors. If you want to see the flex, make it part of your design. I see lovely box lights where the flex comes up and they drill a hole here, it goes in here, it comes back out, and they snake it the whole way through the fitting. You can get rope style flex. It's kind of a take on the old style braided flex, but it's a modern specs. So you can get that. It's available in almost any color. So if you want to see the flex, it can be part of your design. If you want to hide the flex, again, just make sure it's not pinched, crimped, clamped, or squeezed, or bent, or at risk of being cut, or a screw being driven through it, or anything like that. So that's something to consider. Next, your bulb choice. Again, we've been through bulb choice. I like the LED. There's an LED variant for everything now. You can see these bulbs, they barely get warm. You can grab and hold onto them, whereas a tungsten filament bulb will get very, very hot. So you have to think about that. Obviously, you're dealing with wood, or maybe you're dealing with plastic, or whatever you choose to make your light fitting out of. If you're going to use a tungsten filament bulb, they get very, very hot. So allow for heat dissipation. Make sure there's no flammable materials in your design. Make sure that it's enough gap from the wood so that the wood doesn't get charred or made black. That's something to consider. So I would recommend you always go for the LED option. It's energy saving, and it's you can get the heat consideration out of it. Okay, next thing, let's talk about our design choice and in material wise. So if you go onto Google, or if you go onto Pinterest or anything like this, and you see lamps or hanging lights or beautiful barn type lights or wood, chains, brass fittings, copper, there's some steampunk style. The sky's the limit really, and you're only limited by your imagination, but there's things you must think about. If you're going to start adding metal parts to your fitting, it will have to be earthed, especially anywhere that cable can possibly come in contact with that metal. Again, you have human beings interacting with these things, so you're touching the metal parts. If there's any danger of that becoming live, it is a hazard to life, so it must be grounded or earthed, so that's something to think about. Obviously, wood is non-conductive, so that's fine. Plastic is non-conductive, so that's fine again. So there's some beautiful light fittings out there. I've seen ones made with plumbing fittings, gun barrels, that kind of stuff, and they look fantastic. I've even seen bulbs fixed to old taps. I've seen bulbs fixed to hand planes and then made into lamps. So really, you're only limited by your imagination, but you must consider metal is your number one enemy when it comes to electricity. All metal conducts, or at least most metal conducts, and so everything must be grounded and bonded. So when you're designing your light, think about how you're going to get your earth onto that. Now there's lugs you can get for earth wire. You can get lugs with an eye in it, lugs with spade connectors on it, so you can probably put a washer and a screw, get that under your pipe and earth it that way. There's loads of different ways of doing it. I won't go into them all now because the video will just go on forever, but it's something you must consider when you're designing your light or your lamp, is the materials you're going to use. If there's a lot of metal in it, you're going to have to find a way to ground that metal. Okay, there we go. That has been a video on how to wire lamps, light fittings and all that kind of stuff, aimed at woodworkers, woodturners and makers out there. Hopefully I've covered everything that you needed to know, and hopefully it has instilled you with some confidence to go and actually make your own light fittings. So any questions you have for me, just make sure you leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you. Anything you still don't feel like I've explained, or anything you want to know, just ask below. I'll do my best to get those comments answered, and maybe an upcoming video I can address some more questions. So if you're still at the end of this video don't feel confident to wire your own lamp, that's fine. I understand that electricity is not something to be trifled with, but you should at least be confident enough to run your cables through your lamp, so it shouldn't stop you building what you want to build and making what you want to make. Leave the terminating end of things to a qualified professional if that's what you want to do, but you can build your lamp, get everything made for it, get all your parts, see how you're going to fit them to your light fitting, and have a professional just fit the parts for you. But you can route your cables and stuff, so you can still go ahead and do that. For everybody else that feels confident enough that they can wire up their own switch and their own light, just follow all the steps that I've shown you here and make sure that your connections are spot on. Take no chances. Make sure that the outer cores of that flex or the outer sheet is what's clamped at all times. Make sure nothing is kinked, caught, crimped. Make sure your cables are routed correctly. Make sure all your exposed metal parts are bonded, earthed, grounded, or again, whatever way you want to say it, and you should be good to go. Now, some of you are probably asking, you never showed us how to wire a plug. Like I said in the video already, I've done a full video on how to wire a plug. I will have linked that in the video already, and it will be in the description below. So if you want to see how to put a plug on your lamp, go watch that video. It's an in-depth on wiring a plug. If I put that in this video as well, this video will be 3 hours long, so I won't do that. So again, hopefully this has been informative, and hopefully you've enjoyed it, and hopefully this will inspire you to go make your own light fittings. I know there's a bunch more that I want to make, especially hanging pendants, maybe some live edge pendants with some lovely rope lights hanging off them, or maybe like you could get like an old wheel off an old cart, wooden cart, hang loads of lights off it. The sky's the limit. So I have a bunch of stuff in my own head that I want to build, and a few lamps as well to go in the house. So that's it, guys. If you're new here again, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, comment the questions below. I'm going to get out of here now and think about wanting some lights. Take it easy.